All right, so Braden Smith, I mean, what exactly do you say? I feel compelled to talk about it, but I'm not entirely sure what it is that I want to talk about. Like, the things that Braden Smith described that he was going through, that was very tough stuff. It was very dark, and it was very serious stuff. I mean, there's really no other way to put it on that front. Now, of course, there is the reality that we all knew something like this was going on per no sources at all, but at the same time, it didn't take a whole lot of deducing to figure out that mental health was at play. And I know there's like in a moment like this, to bring up the football side of this, like to talk about this through the perspective of the Colts, there's a level of insensitivity that comes with that type of thing. Like, in a month, time heals all. So eventually the conversation shifts. But in the wake of the news, you want to be careful with how you approach it, because you don't want to come off like you're minimizing what it is that he was going through by trying to just talk about the game of football, right? But to kind of go back to what my point in bringing that up is, that I'm very aware of that situation, okay? But to go back to what I'm talking about, when you look at the way the Colts were handling the situation from a communication perspective, so often as fans of the Indianapolis Colts, we get aggravated with a lack of consistent, clear, transparent communication about player availability. And to some degree, it's justified. I mean, if we're being 100% honest, particularly when you're talking about in the heat of the season, I mean, we've had a lot of that type of stuff go on. But there is another side to that, where when the Colts are asked about Braden Smith, and the way they frame their answers are always something like, listen, we're supporting Braden Smith right now and we're respecting his privacy. Even if you're covering the team, even if you're the most diehard football fan on planet Earth, once it's framed through that perspective, there just has to be a part of you that knows what time it is, right? And you know he's going through something tough, and there's really no need to publicize it or speak about it any more than that, because why make it any worse on the guy, quite frankly? And I don't want to get into the details of what it is that Braden Smith was talking about, because quite frankly, it's not my story to tell. That's why him and his wife are the ones telling it. And then also he shared details on how he treated it, a method that may be controversial to some. I consider myself maybe a little more open-minded when it comes to that specific type of topic, but at the same time, I'm not at all qualified to speak both in favor or against what it is that Braden Smith did in that moment, nor do I feel it's necessary to the discussion that we're having. But what I can say is this: if you're talking about Braden Smith playing for the Indianapolis Colts this year, to go from where he was at to being able to renegotiate his contract with the Colts and commit to coming back this season is undoubtedly a good sign about his availability, even as insignificant as something like that might seem in this moment. And I suppose to open up the discussion a little bit more about mental health, which I know can be polarizing at times, and I'm not entirely sure why that is, but I suppose I will try to unpack it just a little bit, because hey, you know, I don't want to just sit here and kind of air the dirty laundry of Braden Smith, but we could have a discussion amongst ourselves. And let me, I suppose, start with this thought right here, and then we could build off of this, and you guys could contribute in the comment section and things of that nature, if you feel comfortable doing so. I will speak for myself and friends maybe that I have and things that I've seen. We, as football fans and men, and listen, I know there's ladies that like the game. Trust me, ladies, you are welcome here at the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. We're not discriminating at all. We'll take all of you, you know? But football fans, by and large, this is anecdotal evidence. I have no numbers, although I'm 100% sure the numbers would support this. Football fans are men. And for whatever reason, as men, whether it be society or the way we're brought up, or a combination of those things and other things that I'm not saying, for whatever reason, we seem to be a bit hesitant at times to view things as a mental health crisis or really give mental health the credit that it deserves. And on some level, it can come off as a lack of sensitivity, and maybe to some degree it is. But there is the other side of it where I can already I'm risking towing that line of things that maybe I shouldn't talk about, but we're gonna keep going. My intention is pure, okay? Like I'm not out here trying to be divisive. But and I'm young. I'm 28 years old, but I can go off of like what I hear the older generation say, but then also even a shift that I've seen in my own life. I feel like the term and the idea of mental health has in kind of like our social discourse been weaponized to some degree. Maybe the definition has even expanded, but point being is if you call everything a mental health crisis, it does to some degree take away from something like Braden Smith and what he's going through, which is something that seems to be very, very severe. So when you're having a bad day and you're saying you're depressed, as a man, sometimes we will look at that type of thing and say, are you sure? Not only because we respond sometimes well to that type of approach, but again, you don't want to minimize a legitimate mental health problem from something that maybe is just like a passing emotion. And I'll personalize this to some degree because it's not all good, right? Like me saying that is almost like me trying to take some sort of moral stance or I don't know, do some sort of social commentary. But just, I guess, allow me to explain my perspective a little bit more here. And I just want to see if you guys relate, quite frankly. Because again, not very often that we get an opportunity to talk about something that isn't so much the Colts as it is something else. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I've gone through seasons personally. I've gone through times that can be very, very tough for whatever reason, right? It may be one thing, it may be multiple things. You may have a bunch of stressors on you at once. You may not even be able to identify specifically what it is that's bothering you. But there's good times, there's bad times. And in the bad times, sometimes waking up can feel like a little bit of a chore, right? Showing up as your best self going throughout your day is tough. It's tough to be motivated. It's tough to put on that face for everyone that's around you, put on the happy face, if you will, right? And in those moments, there's a part of me that has asked myself, like, I almost guilt myself in those moments. Do you know what I'm saying? Which is probably not healthy at all. But it's really probably not healthy at all. But like I'll be feeling down about something and maybe I'll be going through a bad week, a bad month. And there's like just a part of me that says, am I justified in feeling this way? Like, think about all the people that have it worse than me, not only in the world, but just in the country alone. Like, am I really justified in being that way? Or am I just being a bitch? And it's one thing to treat yourself like that. But I feel like a lot of the times, which is really, I'm working into my point now, as men, we will approach the entire topic through that lens, whether it be for ourselves, whether it be for our friends, whether it be for a discussion like this. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some people that view this topic of Braden Smith and say, listen, man, you got to man up because you're an NFL football player and you're getting paid to play football. And it's not to say that there's no truth in that whatsoever, but it does to some degree kind of miss the mark, particularly when you see the specifics of what it is that he was going through. So I suppose the moral of the entire story here is have a little bit of grace, Try to have a little bit of grace. Doesn't mean that you have to be a sucker. And it doesn't mean that when someone is being shitty and calling it mental health, that you have to then in turn give them a pass because of that. But I suppose, again, just grace. I don't know. Like, I guess I don't even really have an overarching point. I just kind of felt compelled to talk about that. And you know what? I'm going to end it here before I risk just kind of going on a rant that is making no sense. I'll let you guys contribute in the comment section if you'd like to. And yeah, of course, what do I always say? I always say be careful what you say to the person on the other side of the keyboard. You don't know what it is that they're going through today. So if we discuss this topic in the comment section, that of course applies. My name is Justin. This right here was the Behind the Bench Colts podcast. And as always, go Colts.